there's Mark, there's Chrystia Freeland, Mark Carney, Chrystia Freeland, Karina Gould, and Frank Bayliss, who I was extremely impressed with, by the way. I don't know how you felt about him, but I was quite impressed with him. I was surprised that he was never in cabinet, given his background and expertise and his ability to communicate and some of the ideas that he was talking about during the debate. But voting has started. It's safe to assume that Mark Carney is in the lead. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen in 7 days? March 10 days?
Yep.
9.
Well,
9 days. March 9th.
We're recording this on Friday.
Yeah.
It'll be on Sunday, March 9th, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's 9 days-ish.
Yeah.
9 days-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, the math is mathing today. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what do you think
It's
is going to
not.
happen?
Yeah. So I'll put it to you like this. Prime Minister designate Mark Carney is probably going to come in first. I'm not going to say whether it's going to be the first or second or third. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the first. But I said that about Bonnie Crombie, and look how that turned out. So we'll see. Things happen, right? Second place, probably Karina or Chrystia. I thought that it would be Chrystia, but I'm not really sure about that because Karina has grown into the role. She's a lot more likable when she's talking to you. She's not talking down to you like Chrystia. That is Christia's biggest problem, is when she speaks, she's always talking down, like a mother scolding her child for putting their hands in the cookie jar.
Yeah.
But Frank
I've said that exact thing before. I've said that she comes across like a school principal who's disciplining you.
Yeah, and then
nobody likes that.
And Frank Bayliss, I mean, we'll get into the debate and everything, but Frank Bayliss he's very good in French. Like, I didn't watch the whole French debate, but very good in French, very good in English, and he seems to be just a normal guy, a normal businessman.
Yeah.
Right?
Which, as we know, is very popular from the Doug Ford experience in Ontario. So, that works out really well. I was really surprised because I didn't know very much about Frank. I think he was only there for one term and then he left. Maybe he didn't like the job. I don't know. But I was quite surprised to see that somebody like him wasn't in cabinet. Throughout the Trudeau years. So very interesting to see that. We'll see how it goes. I look forward to Sunday. I think we have one more episode before we talk about that, before we wrap up that leadership race. There's a big controversy with Mr. Carney and Brookfield. And you want to tell us a little bit about that?
So back last year before Donald Trump took office, the company, I guess he was on the board of, he was chair of the board of Brookfield, a company that I guess operates here in Canada, decided that they were going to move their head office to New York. And that happened before Donald Trump took office, roughly around the same time as Trump made his first tariff threats, is what people were saying. But the Conservatives are trying to latch onto this because Carney said after the debate, he kind of, and again, this is a learning curve, right? He's going from a
private citizen
to a public person, and he stepped in it. And some people are saying he lied, but I mean, I'll leave that up to people to decide. But basically, he said he wasn't a part of that decision making, which was really a really bad way to word it, because after that, it came out from the media and from the Conservatives, they jumped on it, that indeed he chaired the meeting when they decided.
Yeah.
And then they tried to backpedal and they tried to say, well, they didn't officially do it until after Carney had left.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that I think that the Conservatives are going to try and latch on to, because they want to paint him just like the carbon tax,
Mm-hmm.
just like all these, the capital gains tax, all of these staples of the Liberal Party policy for the past 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
that Mark Carney is saying that he would reverse as prime minister.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to sow the seed of distrust.
Yes.
And people don't like dishonest politicians.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see if it works or not. I don't know. I think that's one issue, but I don't think that's the biggest piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So I think you're absolutely right. They're trying to go after his believability, right? Whether people believe him, because you can make a whole lot of promises. Although I specifically think that he needs to get rid of the carbon tax before he goes into an election. The carbon tax cannot be an election promise. You don't want to have Mark Carney. Listen to me. You don't want to talk about the carbon tax during the election. You want it to be done and over with. It's not on the books. It's canceled. It doesn't exist. Then when they talk about the carbon tax, you go, what carbon tax? What are you talking about? God. So,
and if he calls the, sorry,
if it's an election promise, that's where they're going to get him on. Can you believe this guy? Because he did this and he did this and he did this. And you know what? You dig into anybody's life, you're going to find something that they lied about or they did something about or whatever it is, right? And then it becomes a question of, he's saying all these things, but can you really believe him, right? So Mark Carney, you're going to become prime minister before you go into an election. You're going to have a couple of days. The first thing you've got to do is get rid of the carbon tax and reverse the capital gains increase.
Yes, and because what I was going to say is, if he doesn't, he can say all he wants that he's going to get rid of it. But if the rumors are true and he calls an election pretty much as soon as he becomes leader,
mm-hmm.
the carbon tax will go up during the election,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And once you're in an election, there is nothing you can do. If you try to call cabinet back and you try to reverse it during an election, that is not going to fly. That is not going to fly.